Hi, I'm Paul and welcome to RGD Paranormal Files. Please hit like and subscribe, thank you. One of the mysteries puzzling human mind since the origin of mankind is the concept of reincarnation. It is derived from Latin and literally means to take on the flesh again, in other words, to take on the fleshy, physical body. Discussion of the subject appears in the philosophical traditions of India and Greece from about the 6th century BC. What exactly is reincarnation? It simply means that we leave one life and go into another. It is all for the sole purpose of soul development and spiritual growth. The soul may take the form of human, animal, or plant depending on the moral quality of the previous life's actions. This doctrine is a central tenet of the Indian and Greek religions. However, reincarnation implies that the person remains essentially the same, while occupying a new body. Reincarnation is also known by other terms like rebirth, metempsychosis, Greek word, transmigration, English equivalent of metempsychosis, disambiguation, palingenesis, and so on. A biochemist or doctor would tell us that the individual cells in our body have a limited lifespan from days to weeks, and a few years. Using sophisticated carbon-14 dating methods, Dr. Friesen and his team of stem cells researchers in the Karolinska Institute, Stockholm, Sweden, found that the average age of cells in an adult body would be between 7 and 10 years. Considering this sober evidence, we can understand that as we age, our bodily cells are replaced regularly. Hence, we have a constantly changing body. However, our consciousness of who we are remains unchanging. Our identification of ourselves, the I consciousness factor, remains constant and unchanging. Even though we may develop changes in our likes and dislikes and thinking over the years, we always know who we are in the sense of personal continuity or personal beingness. Similarly, our consciousness is unchanging or immortal, and travels through many changing bodies in time. This is the rational explanation of reincarnation. We shall now try to understand what different religions have to say about it. Hinduism. Reincarnation is the religious or philosophical belief that the soul or spirit, after biological death, begins a new life in a new body that may be human, animal, or spiritual depending on the moral quality of the previous life's actions. The entire universal process, that gives rise to the cycle of death and rebirth, governed by karma, is referred to as samsara. Karma is action, which may be good or bad. Based on the type of karma one does, he chooses his subsequent birth. For example, if one has done a lot of divine service and has a desire to do more service at the time of death, his soul chooses a family that is supportive for his desire for rebirth. According to Hinduism, even devas, gods, may also die and be born again. But here the term reincarnation is not strictly applicable. Lord Vishnu is known for his 10 incarnations, Dasavatars. In Hinduism, in the holy book Rig Veda, the oldest extant Indo-Aryan text, numerous references are made to rebirths. One verse says, "Burn him not up, nor quite consume him, Agni. Let not his body or his skin be scattered. O Jatavedas, when thou hast matured him, then send him on his way unto the fathers. Let thy fierce flame, thy glowing splendor, burn him with thine auspicious forms, O Jatavedas. Bear this man to the region of the pious. Again, O Agni, to the fathers send him who, offered in thee, goes with our oblations. Wearing new life, let him increase his offspring. Let him rejoin a body, Jatavedas." The Bhagavad Gita states, "Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings. Nor in the future shall any of us cease to be." As the embodied soul continuously passes, in this body, from childhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change, and worn-out garments are shed by the body. Worn-out bodies are shed by the dweller within the body. New bodies are donned by the dweller, like garments. According to the Hindu sage Adi Shankaracharya, the world as we ordinarily understand it is like a dream, fleeting and illusory. To be trapped in samsara, the cycle of birth and death, is a result of ignorance of the true nature of our existence. It is ignorance, avidya, of one's true self that leads to ego consciousness, grounding one in desire and a perpetual chain of reincarnation. The idea is intricately linked to action, karma, a concept first recorded in the Upanishads. Every action has a reaction, and the force determines one's next incarnation. One is reborn through desire. A person desires to be born because he or she wants to enjoy a body, which can never bring deep, lasting happiness or peace, Ananda. After many births, every person becomes dissatisfied and begins to seek higher forms of happiness through spiritual experience. When, after spiritual practice, sadhana, a person realizes that the true self is the immortal soul rather than the body or the ego, all desires for the pleasures of the world will vanish, since they will seem insipid compared to spiritual Ananda. When all desire has vanished, the person will not be born again. When the cycle of rebirth thus comes to an end, a person is said to have attained liberation, moksha. All schools agree this implies the cessation of worldly desires and freedom from the cycle of birth and death, though the exact definition differs. Followers of the Advaita Vedanta school believe they will spend eternity absorbed in the perfect peace and happiness of the realization that all existence is one Brahman of which the soul is part. Dvaita schools perform worship with the goal of spending eternity in a spiritual world or heaven, loka, in the blessed company of the Supreme Being. Jainism is historically connected with the Sramana tradition, with which the earliest mentions of reincarnation are associated. In Jainism, the soul and matter are considered eternal, uncreated and perpetual. There is a constant interplay between the two, resulting in bewildering cosmic manifestations in material, psychic and emotional spheres around us. This led to the theories of transmigration and rebirth. Changes but not total annihilation of spirit and matter is the basic postulate of Jain philosophy. The life as we know now, after death, therefore moves on to another form of life based on the merits and demerits it accumulated in its current life. The path to becoming a supreme soul is to practice non-violence and be truthful. Karma forms a central and fundamental part of Jain faith, being intricately connected to other of its philosophical concepts like transmigration, reincarnation, liberation, non-violence, ahimsa, and non-attachment, among others. Actions are seen to have consequences, some immediate, some delayed, even into future incarnations. So the doctrine of karma is not considered simply in relation to one lifetime, but also in relation to both future incarnations and past lives. Karma is the root of birth and death. The souls bound by karma go round and round in the cycle of existence. Whatever suffering or pleasure that a soul may be experiencing in its present life is on account of choices that it has made in the past. As a result of this doctrine, Jainism attributes supreme importance to pure thinking and moral behavior. The Jain texts postulate four ghatas, that is, states of existence or birth categories, within which the soul transmigrates. The four ghatas are Deva, demigods; Manasya, humans; Naraki, hell beings; and Tiryansha, animals, plants, and microorganisms. The four ghatas have four corresponding realms or habitation levels in the vertically tiered Jain universe. Demigods occupy the higher levels where the heavens are situated, humans, plants and animals occupy the middle levels, and hellish beings occupy the lower levels, where 7 hells are situated. Depending on its karma, a soul transmigrates and reincarnates within the scope of this cosmology of destinies. The four main destinies are further divided into subcategories and still smaller subcategories. In all, Jain texts speak of a cycle of 8.4 million birth destinies in which souls find themselves again and again as they cycle within samsara. In Jainism, God has no role to play in an individual's destiny. One's personal destiny is not seen as a consequence of any system of reward or punishment, but rather as a result of its own personal karma. Violent deeds, killing of creatures having 5 sense organs, eating fish, and so on, lead to rebirth in hell. Deception, fraud and falsehood leads to rebirth in the animal and vegetable world. Kindness, compassion and humble character result in human birth, while austerities in the making and keeping of vows lead to rebirth in heaven. Each soul is thus responsible for its own predicament, as well as its own salvation. Buddhism. The Buddhist concept of reincarnation differs from others in that there is no eternal soul, spirit, or self, but only a stream of consciousness that links life with life. The actual process of change from one life to the next is called punarbhava, Sanskrit, or punabhava, Pali. Literally, becoming again, or more briefly bhava, becoming. The early Buddhist texts discuss techniques for recalling previous births, predicated on the development of high levels of meditative concentration. Buddha reportedly warned that this experience can be misleading and should be interpreted with care. He taught a distinct concept of rebirth constrained by the concepts of anatta, that there is no irreducible Atman or self, tying these lives together, which serves as a contrast to Hinduism, where everything is connected, and in a sense, everything is everything. In Buddhist doctrine, the evolving consciousness, Pali, Samvadanika Vijnana, or stream of consciousness, Pali, Vijnana Sotam, upon death, or the dissolution of the aggregates, becomes one of the contributing causes for the arising of a new aggregation. At the death of one personality, a new one comes into being, much as the flame of a dying candle can serve to light the flame of another. The consciousness in the new person is neither identical to nor entirely different from that in the deceased, but the two form a causal continuum or stream. Transmigration is the effect of karma, Pali, kama, or volitional action. The basic cause is the abiding of consciousness in ignorance, Pali, avidya, Sanskrit, avidya. When ignorance is uprooted, rebirth ceases. Vipassana meditation uses bare attention to mind states without interfering, owning or judging. Observation reveals each moment as an experience of an individual mind state, such as a thought, a memory, a feeling or a perception that arises, exists, and ceases. This limits the power of desire, which, according to the second noble truth of Buddhism, is the cause of suffering, dukkha, and leads to nirvana, nibbana, vanishing, of the self-idea, in which self-oriented models are transcended and the world stops. Thus, consciousness is a continuous birth and death of mind states. Rebirth is the persistence of this process. Sikhism preaches the path of bhakti to achieve salvation. Sikhs believe that the soul is passed from one body to another until liberation. If we perform good deeds and actions and remember the Creator, we attain a better life, while, if we carry out evil actions and sinful deeds, we will be incarnated in lower life forms. God may pardon wrongs and release us. Otherwise, reincarnation is due to the law of cause and effect but does not create any caste or differences among people. Islam reincarnation is refuted by all the main monotheistic religions of the world. The reason for this is that it is against their basic teachings of a finite life for the human, upon which she is judged and rewarded accordingly. If the human is to go through numerous life, on which life is she to be judged? The first life? The last life? Considering this, Quran rejects the concept of reincarnation, though it preaches the existence of soul. The principal belief in Islam is that there is only one birth on this earth. The doomsday comes after death and will be judged as to one has to once for all go to hell or be unified with God. However, the idea of reincarnation is accepted by a few Muslim sects, particularly of the Shia sect, Gulat, and by other sects in the Muslim world such as Druzes. Gulat Shia Muslim sect regards its founders as in some special sense divine incarnations, Hulul. Historically, South Asian Ismailis performed chantas yearly, one of which is for sins committed in past lives. Further, Sinan ibn Salman ibn Muhammad, also known as Rashid al-Din Sinan, r. 1162–92, subscribed to the transmigration of souls as a tenet of the Alawi, who are thought to have been influenced by Ismailism. Modern Sufis who embrace the idea of reincarnation include Bawa Muhyiddin. Judaism reincarnation is not an essential tenet of traditional Judaism. It is not mentioned in the Tanakh, Hebrew Bible, the classical rabbinical works, Mishnah and Talmud, or Maimonides' 13 Principles of Faith, though the tale of the 10 martyrs in the Yom Kippur liturgy, who were killed by Romans to atone for the souls of the 10 brothers of Joseph, is read in Ashkenazi Orthodox Jewish communities. Medieval Jewish rationalist philosophers discussed the issue, often in rejection. However, Jewish mystical texts, the Kabbalah, from their classic medieval canon onwards, teach a belief in Gilgul Neshamot, Hebrew for metempsychosis of souls. Literally, soul cycle. Other, non-Hasidic, Orthodox Jewish groups, while not placing a heavy emphasis on reincarnation, do acknowledge it as a valid teaching. The 16th century Isaac Luria, the Ari, brought the issue to the center of his new mystical articulation, for the first time, and advocated identification of the reincarnations of historic Jewish figures that were compiled by Chaim Vital in his Shar HaGilgalim. Christianity. The major Christian denominations reject the concept of reincarnation. Christians believe that when a person dies, their soul would sleep in the grave along with their corpse. This soul sleep continues until a time in the future known as the last day, or also known as the final judgment. But there is evidence in Bible of Jesus himself teaching reincarnation. However, there was a schism about understanding Jesus himself in early Christian history. Was he a man who became God? Was he God born as a man? The struggle was between the church established by Paul in Rome and the remnants of the Jerusalem church who fled to Egypt after Rome invaded Israel in 70 AD. The Roman faction rejected pre-existence and reincarnation and believed Jesus was God become man. The Jerusalem faction knew Jesus was a man who achieved the human divine at one meant, which is the goal of everyone to escape reincarnation cycle of birth and death and have eternal life. However, Rome won the political battle and the Orthodox definition of resurrection was reduced to an end of time, night of the living dead. However, the Christian sects such as the Bogomils and the Cathars, who professed reincarnation and other Gnostic beliefs, were referred to as Manichaean, and are today sometimes described by scholars as Neo-Manichaean. Recent studies have indicated that some Westerners accept the idea of reincarnation, including certain contemporary Christians, modern neo-pagans, followers of Spiritism, Theosophists, and students of esoteric philosophies such as Kabbalah. The belief in reincarnation is particularly high in the Baltic countries, with Lithuania having the highest figure for the whole of Europe, 44%. In a survey by the Pew Forum in 2009, 24% of American Christians expressed a belief in reincarnation. Geddes McGregor, an Episcopalian priest who is Emeritus Distinguished Professor of Philosophy at the University of Southern California, Fellow of the Royal Society of Literature, a recipient of the California Literature Award, Gold Medal, Non-Fiction category, and the first holder of the Rufus Jones Chair in Philosophy and Religion at Bryn Mawr, demonstrates in his book Reincarnation in Christianity, a new vision of the role of rebirth in Christian thought, that Christian doctrine and reincarnation are not mutually exclusive belief systems. Conclusion: if reincarnation is to be examined from an unbiased scientific point of view, it is necessary first of all to find a way of bypassing such unscientific barriers as religious bias. Neither there is strong objective evidence nor specific research methods that can discover the mystery of reincarnation. However, not everything can be known by the humans with their current mind and intelligence that are far limited to perceive such paranormal phenomena. Thus, there is nothing much to conclude. However, one thing is very clear. Human mind's greatest weakness is to make concepts that fit into its belief and then believe that this is the absolute truth. Such diverse beliefs have led to the origin of masses called religions. Each religion and each spiritual teacher differs in their view of existence or mechanism of rebirths. However, there cannot be many truths. So it appears that the truth is beyond the reach of mind. Perhaps the only way we'll know whether there is reincarnation when we die. Death is inevitable. Thus, we all will find out sooner or later. Thank you for watching. Please hit like and subscribe. I'm Paul and have a good day.